Good morning, and welcome to the Rankin Report for Sunday, March the 13th, 2022. Doing this today from a different part of the house, but that's neither here nor there. From the book of Joshua, chapter 25, verses 2 through 5. Joshua said to all the people, "This is what the Lord, the God of Israel, says. Long ago your ancestors, including Terah, the father of Abraham and Nahor, lived beyond the Euphrates River and worshipped other gods. But I took your father Abraham from the land beyond the Euphrates and led him throughout Canaan and gave him many descendants. I gave him Isaac, and to Isaac I gave Jacob and Esau. I assigned the hill country of Seir to Esau, but Jacob and his family went down to Egypt. Then I sent Moses and Aaron, and I afflicted the Egyptians by what I did there, and I brought you out." The passage was the beginning of Joshua's last address to the Israelites before turning them loose to enjoy the promised land. The wars were over, at least for the time being. Most of the land had been conquered. And instead of simply reminding the people how bad they had it in Egypt and reviewing the law of Moses once more, Joshua took them all the way back to the first Hebrew, Abraham, and his walk with the Lord. The reason was simple. God promised the land to Abraham and his descendants, and that promise was now fulfilled. The journey to the promised land did not begin with the plagues against Egypt, but much further back, with a promise made by God to one man. The entire history of this series that we're looking at was that the story of America did not begin with what we normally are taught in the history books. It goes all the way back to the writings of John Wycliffe and the desire of the people for a more intimate walk with God than offered by mere religion. When it either did not occur or was seemingly slow in coming in Europe, a group of Wycliffe's followers packed up their bags in a small boat and headed for the New World of North America. The influence of the Pilgrims and other believers would be felt as the desire for a closer walk with God expanded to the desire for independence from Great Britain and the formation of a new nation that would be dedicated to God. Most history books only go back as far as the landing of Wycliffe's followers, who we know today as the Pilgrims, in 1620. Recently, however, a sort of alternate view of the history of the nation has emerged in what is known as the 1619 Project, citing that particular year as one where an English ship carrying African slaves landed in what is today Northampton, Virginia. Because of this, proponents of the project say that the English colonies in North America, and by extension the United States, were founded on slavery and racism. Some have even suggested that the true cause of the American Revolution was to preserve slavery. There are problems with focusing on the date of 1619. First among these is the fact that neither the 1619 nor the 1620 settlements were the first European colonies in North America. That distinction belongs to the Spanish, who in 1565 settled St. Augustine in Florida. The British first came to Virginia in 1587 to Roanoke. When that colony failed, they tried again in 1606, establishing Jamestown. 2 years later, 1608, the French established Quebec, today a territory of Canada. Then the Dutch landed in 1609 in New York. So a lot of other countries were over here long before either 1619 or 1620. The second problem with the 1619 effort is that slavery was an unfortunate presence in North America long before that date. Many of the nations that established colonies dealt in the trade, if not with Africans, Traders turned their attention to the First Nations already on the continent. The History Channel reports that captive Africans were here in 1526, and possibly as early as the 1400s. The Pilgrims, ironically, were one of the few groups making the crossings from Europe that did not bring slaves, nor engage in the slave trade, which brings us to the third problem with focusing on 1619. The group that called themselves the Lollards were influenced by the writings of John Wycliffe in the 1300s, who sought to reform the Anglican Church, reforming the reformers, you might say. They brought with them the concept of self-government, having written the Mayflower Compact detailing how they were to live in their new home. They also brought with them a sense of industry and self-sufficiency, where other colonies from time to time required periodic assistance from their native lands. We know this today as the Protestant work ethic. Just like the parable of the wheat and the tares in Matthew chapter 13, verses 24 to 30, both the Puritans' positive traits and the evil of slavery grew together in the growing colonies of North America. There were also movements to end slavery on both sides of the Atlantic. Benjamin Franklin and Dr. Benjamin Rush co-founded the Pennsylvania Abolitionist Society in 1774, and the issue nearly scuttled the drive to separate from Great Britain, as a bloc of southern states refused to agree to the Declaration of Independence unless a paragraph dealing with the trade was stricken from the document. Yet the issue would continue to fester in the new nation for decades, taking finally a savage, bloody war on American soil to end the practice altogether. On the other side of the pond, William Wilberforce and the Clapham Group fought slavery in the British Parliament for 20 years until passage of the Slave Trade Act of 1807. Those who focus on only 1619 or 1620 are at least 300 years off for when America truly began, and the issue of slavery is but a symptom. The true disease is racial prejudice, which sadly continues to this day, and equally sadly, will likely not end until the return of Jesus. This is the evil that must be addressed because all of the forms in which it manifests itself are alive and well. We treat symptoms, but the disease goes merrily along. It is an equal opportunity disorder affecting people of all races and creeds, and it can only be cured by the application of the blood of Jesus. And this leads us to the next part of our series next Sunday. I will tell you this much, however. The work of God in the United States is not just for the United States. It is for all the world. If you like these reports, please hit the like or the subscribe button. That's the Rankin Report for Sunday, March the 13th, 2022. God bless you. Have a great day.